Yo, what's going on? It's your boy, Chuck Investing, back here with another YouTube video. You know how we do it daily on this channel, where we talk about the NQ review. But for today, we're going to be going over something specific, right? So we're going to be going over the Sick Sister concept formed by ICT. Okay, so a lot of people, they may not, I get this question a lot of times, like, how can you tell when it's going to be a Sick Sister versus an SMT? There are very, very specific parameters that happen that would lead to dictate whether or not this is going to be a Sick Sister environment or if it's going to be a smart money reversal, right? And so if you're not aware of what a Sick Sister means versus an SMT, right? So an SMT is when, NQ would take out a high, and then ES fails to take out that high, and then we break market structure lower, indicating that we are actually weak, right? And that purge of liquidity on NQ was just a liquidity purge to reverse in the other direction because ES failed to do so. But there are times where, let's say, for example, ES is rising higher and ES takes out a high, but NQ has not taken out that high yet. And you may be wondering, oh, well, this is going to be SMT. So any short-term break in market structure I'll take, I'm going to short that. Well, a lot of times you're going to lose money if you don't understand that this is going to be a Sick Sister versus an SMT, right? And so we'll be going over that today. That sounds good so far. Press that like button because that's what it's for. Appreciate you for pressing it. You didn't have to, but you already did. So, I really appreciate you for that. Thanks for subscribing as well. Press that subscription button, press the notification bell, leave a comment below any questions, and join that free Discord. Now, without further ado, let's start on the daily time frame, okay? Because top-down analysis is the most important, right? I need to explain the context behind why certain things happen. Otherwise, it is completely pointless, okay, for me to talk about what's going on here. Now, maybe let's go over the weekly. So like I said last week, right, with the way that we interacted inside this weekly FBG, right, we expanded outside of it 2 weeks ago. And, you would have thought, oh, maybe this is going to be an inversion and we can take out some of these lows here, right? But because the next candle immediately after that did not expand away, instead it came back and closed above the constant encroachment, right? That tells you that price is likely to be actually bullish and it's actually being supported by this FVG. We're just coloring outside the lines because of the high volatility that we are experiencing in the market. Especially with Trump's inauguration, Biden leaving the office, all these new policies coming in, you have to afford a certain degree of, of the lack thereof of precision when it comes to these markets and be a little bit more flexible and try to understand holistically what's going on. So we purged liquidity below here, ended up coming back above the constant encroachment, FVG, and then now we are rising higher. And if you go back to my, my bias review that I do weekly, where I go over the weekly, daily, 4-hour, 1-hour time frames, you'll see that in my last video. It's the ICT weekly log playlist I have on my channel. Now, looking at the daily, so we can see that we've now been rising, right? And let's just remove all drawings for a little bit, right? So we purged liquidity below these lows, right? Failed to take out this low, okay, showing how strong, how bullish we actually are. We inverted this level, this FEG SIBI, inverted the small FEG SIBI that was here as well, came back and tapped this bullish order block, right? And it ended up taking out this high. Now, when we came up here, admittedly, it's a little difficult to anticipate whether or not price is going to actually run through this SIBI level or like it did here, reject from it, and also like it did here, reject from it, and form an intermediate term high and continue lower to take out these connection lows. Right, that's at a point in time you'd be thinking, is that going to be the case? Now, one thing that would have led you to recognize that that would not be the case, and this is where we start to talk about Sick Sister versus SMT. So pay attention. Look at ES. Look at how voluminous ES has been, right? Even look at the way that it inverted the SIBI, right? NQ did not invert the SIBI as hard as ES did. So it starts running, right? Comes back, it inverts this level as well, this daily SIBI, all in one candle. In fact, it inverts two SIBIs all in one candles. And NQ, it took 3 candles to do that, to invert the SIBI right here as well, okay? So what does that tell you? That ES is racing and ES is probably like, we're really bullish, right? We're reacting from this daily fair value gap over here on ES, purging liquidity and running higher. So even though we didn't have a daily fair value gap below here that we reacted from, ES did. And so a lot of times you can leverage what's happening on ES to give you an inclination what's going to happen on NQ. It's kind of like, ES giving you a tip in the hand to see what's going to happen in the future. It's like giving you a crystal ball to see what's happening in the future is the best way I can explain it. So you can see ES strongly moving higher, leaves this gap open, starts to act as a breakaway gap, right? Why? Because you have this daily IFVG in the way, keeping price from returning back to its fair value gap. Price runs higher, ends up creating a bullish order block. And then on this candle here on Tuesday, we end up closing way above the high, right? So, and you have all these relatively equal highs that we're going to be drawing to eventually on ES. Those are my final targets, right? Before we could just continue to expand higher and take out these all-time highs. Like, this is just way too relatively equal to not get taken out, right, at this point. Now, NQ at that same time on Tuesday, right, had not taken out that high yet. So you're thinking that, oh, well, it's not taking out the high. ES has taken out this high. So on shorter time frames, on a 4-hour one, if I see ES breaking market structure lower, that means I'm bearish. No, because you understand that the context of how fast ES is moving and where the targets are for where ES is going, right? That those LRRs, where we're delivering from that daily FVG, right? And how the speed that we use. The most important part is, listen to this: the speed that we use to take out this high on ES and closing over it. This is not what SMT looks like. SMT looks like when you wick above this high and then you come back in the range and close below the low, right? And you start reversing. We did not do that. We closed above this high. That tells you we have enough volume to not even retrace, right? We're just like going to go take these out. That would be my inclination. We're just going to continue to see bullish candles on the ES, right? So, because think about what you see on lower time frames. When you just completely obliterate a high, right, price is likely to just keep rising, okay? And so NQ is getting drawn up by ES, right, which is acting like a sick sister. It's carrying its sister because it's sick, and that's why it's not moving as fast. But ES is carrying it along, right, like the older brother. And so that's what's happening here. Or it could be the older sister carrying the younger brother, right? I'm not sexist. It can go both ways. Now, price ends up running higher. So at this point, you're wondering, okay, is it going to reverse? No, it goes higher. Okay, and so on this daily candle, it continued to expand, and then this past today, Thursday, we had an inside day, right? We didn't end up taking out the previous day high or low. And, Trump spoke today. So there was a lot of volatility in the market. There's a lot of indecision in terms of where price should be going. You have this large wick that's in the way, and obviously NQ has not been moving as fast as ES. And so ES had no problem taking out the previous day high, but NQ, I was anticipating it for it to be an inside day because like around 12 p.m. or 1 p.m., we were already here. We were like down here. And it would take a lot for us to end up taking out this previous day high during the PM session at that point as well. So we'll go into lower time frames. We'll check that out. Let's turn the stuff back on. Okay. So previous day high here, previous day low. Just keep your mind on that. This is that daily FVG CIBI I talked about, right? Over to the left. And you can see that going into the evening yesterday, Asia and London, we end up tapping that daily CIBI high, right? And keep in mind, right, we have this daily BISI that's below here as well, right? This daily BISI below here as well. And we have this daily CIBI over here to the left. So this daily CIBI over here to the left ended up leaving this gap open, right? When you have an inverted CIBI to the left, that's one of the reasons why you can anticipate for price not to return back to this daily BISI. So if you thought this was your draw on liquidity today, you need to think again. If you see a small term, it could return there. But if you see a break of market structure to go higher, right, prior to coming here, reacting off some shorter time frame pre-day rate, it's likely that we're hitting, right, this particular level, right? Like you see, we tapped that level and then kept running higher, keeping this BISI open. Now, I would anticipate that price would keep expanding higher. And so let's look at a few things. We came back and tapped that CIBI level. This is the daily BISI that we did not get to. This is these red lines of the CIBI. We tapped that right around London and then end up reversing, right? So really like the London manipulation, right? And then AM reversal, right? So AM started reversing, heading higher. Ended up coming back above this 4-hour FEG BISI that we inverted overnight. We ended up, in the next candle, like I said, if it's really an inverted level, it should just continue to expand away. The next candle cannot come back to it, right? So it comes back to it and ends up creating this bullish 4-hour order block. Taps it one more time, continues up to here. And you can see that we find some resistance here, this 4-hour CIBI. I ended up taking a short off of that today, actually, because keep in mind, that we've had this 4-hour CIBI level over here that price has failed to get through, right? So it's likely that when it comes back to it, we're going to face some resistance, right? You can anticipate that to happen. We're going to face some resistance at that 4-hour CIBI level. That's why I always keep those kind of levels on my chart. Because you'll be wondering, oh, why can't price just ramp through here? Like there's an easy high above here that we need to target, right? There's this easy liquidity above here. Why can't we just get that? It's because of that FVG SIBI. So when it gets into that level and you see price starting to consolidate, that's a good opportunity to only look for reversals, short-term scalps or retracements, or just close your charts of the day, because it's gonna be hard for it to get there after a large AM session when the PM is likely to be consolidating. Now during the 1 hour, you can see that ever since yesterday PM, we started to run lower until we reach that that daily SIBI IFVG, right? Because ideally you would want it to be drawing down to this daily BISI, but no, it's getting stopped, right? It's almost like ping ponging. It's getting stopped by this daily FVG SIBI. And also returning back to this old 1 hour BISI that had a small portion of it left open. We ended up taking that out, purging this low, returning back to this bullish order block, and then consolidating on that. Pretty much going into the morning until, over like the pre-market session after London, we didn't have too much movement. So despite London moving a little bit, we could have some movement in the AM session, although it could be choppy because London moved a little bit too much for me. We ended up running higher. Now, admittedly, coming into the morning, I saw SMT with ES, right? So there was this high right here, and then there's this high. And ES at this time had already started rising higher and taking out this high. So, I saw this clear London low and this low over here that I'd like to see get taken out. But you have to keep in mind, right? Like we were reacting off this daily IFVG. That's what we're tapping off of, right? So if you're seeing that and prices is like struggling to get through it, like it's going to be difficult for us to scalp this liquidity, right? So I came in the morning, to be very honest, admittedly, I was coming in with shorts, but now that I'm doing this is why I do the daily log, it really was a bullish day, right? And so you have to keep in mind what the higher time frame is really spitting at you and telling you. So it's likely that if we're struggling to get through here, we're likely going to have a bullish day. Okay, so we come here to the 1 hour, we're tapping the the upper half of this 1 hour multiple times. We end up inverting this 1 hour level, these two 1 hour IFVG CIVs levels. Closer to the constant approaching on this one, come back and tap the high of it one more time. Come back and tap this 1 hour CIVI one more time at 11 o'clock. And then we continue to the races higher and higher, right? As ES is getting dragged higher as well. And you can see over here, right? ES is just moving way faster, right? Already taking out these relative equal highs over here. NQ struggled to do that all the way until pretty much the end of the day. This is the same relative equal highs that ES has already taken out that NQ has not. Right? Yeah, ES has already taken out those highs. NQ has not. So that's going to be a target for me going into Friday. Okay. So you see we're going back and forth, back and forth. There's one level I want to keep on my charts that I want you guys to see. There is this 4 hour imbalance that I saw as well. So you can see here at 1 o'clock, we tapped that, just tapped that. And then we rejected lower. I took a short-term scalp short off of that 4 hour PD array. Why did I do that? Because we purged a bunch of liquidity above here. And this is a 4 hour PD array. So 4 hour and daily PD arrays intraday could be good, like places to take retracements if it's at a premium, right? To take a short. Because the 4 hour levels are typically very sensitive, right? And so you'll typically see price not just like easily ramming through that. You'll typically see price once it gets there, it'll have a short-term retracement and then it can run higher. Right. I also talk about this concept as well on my weekly log channel. I talked about that in the last class, so you should check that out as well if you find that helpful. But then on the last, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. candle, we just expand higher and retrace into the range. Okay. On the 15-minute, and why does this happen? Because of ES, right? ES is just moving so much faster, so much higher, because Trump is like bullying the market that we end up running higher, right, to the end of the day. So what's going on here on the 15-minute? Okay. So on the 15-minute, bunch of consolidation. 9:30, we end up wicking out and taking all these lows here, coming back into this 1 hour BISI, and then tapping this daily SIBI, failing to take out this London low. Price ends up running higher, and then just a bunch of chop, really. Creating another bullish order block here with a BISI, trickling higher, end up taking out the London and Asian highs. Return lower back to this old 15-minute fair value gap. When does that happen? At 12:30. So the lunch macro ends up kicking off lower, right? So we didn't have too much movement during 9:30 to about 10:30. Then from 10:30 onwards, we started rising higher, and then after 11:30 going into the lunch hour, we retraced some of that Monday morning AM trend, and then we return back to this 15-minute fair value gap, end up breaking market structure, or end up creating a bullish order block higher, right? running right through this redelivered rebalance price range right here. What is that? It's from this candle's close to this candle's high. This wick in the body, right? That's a redelivered rebalance price range, right? That is like a PD array. I like to look at it like a fair value gap. Price runs through that, taps it again, runs higher, ends up taking out the intraday high and filling in this opening range gap. This is today's opening range gap, right? Which is the RTH. Yesterday's close to today's open at 9:30. That's a whole PD array. See it completely filled here at 1:30. Run lower back to this 15-minute order block. Taps that, runs higher again, ends up taking out this intraday high as well at 1:30 and skyrockets, coming back to that old 4-hour fair value gap. Okay. On the 5-minute, don't want to waste too much time here. We chop around, basically going into 9:30. We failed to get through this 1-hour BSC a couple times. Testing this daily SIBI, breaks on structure higher, consolidates for a while inside this 1-hour SIBI, runs lower. 5-minute BSC we return back to, runs higher again, ends up taking out Asian London highs. What at 11:45? Then we retrace, lunch macro, right? 12:30, 12:40. We end up running higher again because ES is dragging us higher. Price runs lower again once we tap this 4-hour, volume imbalance. That's also mixed in with today's new day opening gap. Taps that, runs lower, and then ends up returning back to a 15-minute inverted FVG, and then trickles higher going into the last PM session. You can see that we ultimately, even though the market structure was trash, we're ultimately heading higher, right? Because ES is dragging us higher. So longs would have been very good to take today. And also, a lot of times, like on a day where you can anticipate to be an inside day, price can whipsaw back and forth a lot, especially if it's not clean. So, taking short-term scalps could be really good on days like this, where you're catching shorts at a premium, reacting off a PD array, or, if you have a long-term bullish, once the price gets back to a discount, you see a break in market structure after hitting another PD array and bounces back from it, and you see how target's higher, then you can take another long from there as well. Now on the 1-minute, not too much price action going on here. There was a nice little short that I took, or I didn't catch it actually, but I would have liked to take it. This is when I talk about the 22 model. This is what we trade on the channel. So, right, so there needs to be a purge of liquidity, internal liquidity right here. Break of market structure lower, fair value gap. Price returns back to that fair value gap, and then it keeps running. Okay, so I'll go over that concept here, give you a couple examples. So, at first I saw all these, relatively equal lows here, and I wanted to see this London low get taken out before we headed higher. So, high, low, higher, high, break of market structure lower, returns back here, and then runs lower, right? So that is the whole 22 model in itself. Okay, although it's not the cleanest, it's very ugly. But you can see that we get stopped here at this 1-hour BSC. So what happens? Price ends up taking out these two lows, and then end up breaking market structure above this high, but there's no fair value gaps. So that's not a 22 model. Price just continues to retrace and run higher, retrace and run higher, retrace and run higher. Till about 11 o'clock, we do have a break of market structure below this low, return back to this fair value gap, then we run lower. At this point, if you wanted to take that short, because we have these relatively equal lows over here, and we've reached the consequent encroachment of the ORG, we see this 1-hour SIBIs that are in the way. And at the time, the 4-hour was looking a little bearish, so you could have taken that. But then you would immediately place your stop loss above here. You know I see price come back above here, right? So if your stop loss was above here before, you move it down to here. But then price immediately breaks market structure in the opposite direction, right? And ES is showing you that's really bullish. So this is a low, high. Break a mark. This is a low, lower low. Break a market structure above this high right here. Fair value gap qualifies, right? You would enter here. Your stop loss would need to be at least below the candle's low right here, or below this low. Ideally, I would have put it below this candle's low, because you have this IFVG right here, breaker, and you have this whole candle with the FVG in it, below the low here. Price ends up running higher, ends up taking out those London and Asian highs, which at this point is likely to take, especially because ES is doing the same thing. Price then retraces lower. And this one is hard to see, but you do have a very tiny 22 model here. Actually, no. These are relatively equal lows. So never mind. Price ends up running higher. But there is a nice 22 model I want to talk about that happened right at this time on ES. So yeah, ES, we know the previous day high is up here on ES. This is the intraday high as well. At that same time, right after we were chased in the lunch session, we know that the 1250 macro is about to kick off soon. So we have this low, high, lower low, bigger market structure above this high, fair value gap. We return back to that, right? You could enter right here. Your stop loss would need to be at least below this IFVG because you have this old bearish order block move right here that price really shouldn't get through if you have this particular IFVG here as well, and you have these series of fair value gaps. If price comes below here, then it's your butt cheeks next. Okay, price ends up running higher, takes out that previous day high. Very nice 22 model long. Once we take out the previous day high, we consolidate from about 1:30 until that 3 o'clock hour. That's when I've been looking for the next trade. So from here, you see this low, high, lower low, breaker market structure, fair value gap. But I would have set my entry here at the high because once we close over this high, it's likely that we're just going to tap in and run higher. We can keep this gap open, and then that's when price starts running higher. You can see a very similar move on NQ as well. All right, we come back to this volume imbalance here at 1:30. At that time on ES, we had taken out the previous day high. So at that point, I'm no longer looking for longs at the moment. Price reacting from this nice NQ level. So, it breaks market structure below this low after purging this high and reacting from a PD array. Has a fair value gap. That's a 22 model. You retrace into it. I know this is going to be high resistance conditions. So I'm waiting for it to at least get back to the 50% retracement level. I enter there and then I run lower. And then price ends up reacting from, and at this point, you can't really see it, but there's an old 4-hour fair value gap over here. And price reacts from there, runs higher. All right, so actually, I think I have the 4-hour value gap marked here. Yeah, so you can see I have it marked here. So this is the 4-hour IFVG that we couldn't get through. You can see the constant encroachment right here. Because ES is bullish, price runs higher, consolidates until really around that after the 3 o'clock session. Right, you should be that's when you should be looking for your next move. You're seeing a lot of consolidation during the 1:30 to 2 p.m. So you have this low, high, lower low, breaking market structure above this high. Not with this candle, but with this candle. The value gap forms here. Kind of hard to enter at this point because it's already ran away. And where are you gonna set your stop loss, right? Because we could come back below this low. It's possible. Price ends up running higher and returns that to the constant encroachment. So that is pretty much today's daily log. Hopefully this was helpful to some of you. Press that like button, share a comment below if you have any questions. Join that free Discord and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video.